Hello everyone. After Nehru, towards the last years of Nehru's prime ministership itself, there were serious debates on what would happen to India after him. And when he died in May 1964, many in India and abroad were almost sure that the Indian political system could be severely and adversely affected and could even collapse with a fight within the Congress party over who would take charge. However, there was no such turmoil, a smooth succession took place. Indeed, since the Nehruvian era, India has seen not only several prime ministers but also certain changes in its political history. Down the years, there have been some upheavals to threaten the smooth functioning of a vibrant democracy, but these challenges have been met and overcome. Amidst the coups and military takeovers in the neighboring countries, India has managed to survive as a democracy and witness smooth change of government from time to time through democratic elections. Immediately after Nehru's death, Gulzarilal Nanda was appointed as the interim prime minister, pending the election of a new parliamentary leader of the Congress party who would then become prime minister. The Lal Bahadur Shastri years June 1964 to January 1966. It is generally accepted that a group within the Congress formed in 1963, which came to be known as the Syndicate and included the president of the party K. Kamaraj and some others, guided the succession to the prime minister's post after Jawaharlal Nehru. The choice was between Morarji Desai and Lal Bahadur Shastri. The former was the senior and experienced congressman who was known for his administrative skills and honesty, but also considered to be conservative, somewhat rigid, and leaning towards the right. The latter was seen to be mild, soft spoken, and flexible, even though a man of integrity and of incorruptible nature. Shastri was supported more widely across the party than was Desai. In the end, Shastri was chosen by the party as the next parliamentary leader, hence the prime minister, as Desai decided not to contest. Early life. Lal Bahadur Shastri was born on October 2, 1904 in Uttar Pradesh, known as United Provinces at the time. Firmly opposed to the caste system, he decided to leave out his surname of Srivastava. Shastri was the title he got on completing his graduation at Kashi Vidyapith, Varanasi in 1928. When he married Lalita Devi in 1928, Lal Bahadur Shastri, very much opposed to the idea of dowry, is said to have accepted just 5 yards of khadi and a spinning wheel on the insistence of his father-in-law to accept something. Swayed by Mahatma Gandhi, Lal Bahadur Shastri joined the freedom movement. In the non-cooperation movement of 1921, he was arrested for taking part in a demonstration, but as he was then a minor, he was let off. Later, he was part of the major movements of the struggle against the British rule, such as the Salt Satyagraha and the individual Satyagraha movement, and then in the 1942 Quit India movement. Imprisoned several times, he made use of his time in prison reading the works of the social reformers and Western philosophers. Shastri was very much part of the Congress political organization, becoming the secretary of the local unit of the party and later the president of the Allahabad Congress Committee. He was elected to the Legislative Assembly of the United Provinces in 1937. Political journey after independence. After independence, Shastri became a minister in Uttar Pradesh state in charge of the police and transport portfolio in Govind Ballabh Pant's cabinet. Among his initiatives in that position were the appointment of women as bus conductors and a direction to the police that water jets be used instead of lathis to disperse unruly mobs. Shastri was made the General Secretary of the All India Congress Committee with Jawaharlal Nehru as the President in 1951. The same year he was nominated to the Rajya Sabha. Nehru drew him into the Union Cabinet. Shastri was the Railways Minister, though he resigned in 1956, taking moral responsibility for a serious rail accident. but he was soon drawn back into the cabinet, and in 1961 he was appointed Home Minister. In this capacity, he achieved a reputation of being a skillful mediator, and he also formed the Committee on Prevention of Corruption headed by K. Santanam, on the basis of whose recommendations the Central Vigilance Commission was established. He had also been Minister for Transport and Communications, Minister for Commerce and Industry, and during Nehru's illness, Minister without portfolio. Prime Minister, continuing Nehru's legacy but with change. Lalu Bahadur Shastri was sworn in as the second Prime Minister of India on June 9, 1964. He kept with himself the portfolios of External Affairs and Atomic Energy, though he later transferred the External Affairs Ministry to Swaran Singh. In his first broadcast to the nation as Prime Minister, Shastri said, "There comes a time in the life of every nation when it stands at the crossroads of history and must choose which way to go. But for us, there need to be no difficulty or hesitation, no looking to right or left. Our way is straight and clear, and the building up of a socialist democracy at home with freedom and prosperity for all, and the maintenance of world peace and friendship with all nations." A true secularist at heart, Shastri said, "The unique thing about our country is that we have Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Parsis, and people of all other religions. We have temples and mosques, gurdwaras and churches. But we do not bring all this into politics. This is the difference between India and Pakistan. Whereas Pakistan proclaims herself to be an Islamic state and uses religion as a political factor, we Indians have the freedom to follow whatever religion we may choose and worship in any way we please. So far as politics is concerned, each of us is as much an Indian as the other." As Prime Minister, Shastri retained the main ministers of Nehru's cabinet, but also drew Indira Gandhi, Nehru's daughter, into his cabinet as Information and Broadcasting Minister. He respected Nehru and kept true to the general policies regulated by the first Prime Minister of India, but he was not a blind follower of Nehru. In several ways, he showed he had a mind of his own. Shastri was the first Prime Minister to have a secretary to the Prime Minister when he drew up on L.K. Jha, a senior ICS officer, to advise him. He thus laid the foundation of what later took the form of the Prime Minister's Secretariat or the Prime Minister's Office. Challenges. Shastri's short tenure saw some major developments. It also showed that Shastri was no weakling but had a vision of his own besides being capable of taking tough decisions quickly. He said, "Perhaps due to my being small in size and soft of tongue, people are apt to believe that I am not able to be very firm. Though not physically strong, I think I am internally not so weak." The three major crises that his government faced were the violent anti-Hindi demonstrations in the state of Madras, later to be named Tamil Nadu, the widespread food shortages, and the second war with Pakistan. The country was disturbed in 1965 by major protests in the non-Hindi speaking states against the possibility of Hindi being imposed as the only national language of India. The agitation was especially intense and violent in Madras state. There were agitations by students and even riots in some places over the issue. Shastri brought peace to prevail by assuring the people that English would continue to be used as the official language as long as the non-Hindi speaking states wanted, though the army had to be called in to quell riots in some places. Economic ideas. Though few people seem to have realized it, Lal Bahadur Shastri took some important steps to meet the challenges that faced the country, steps that were very different from Nehruvian economics, a forerunner of economic reform. Not many seem to know that Shastri tried to decentralize governance by moving decision making on projects from the Planning Commission to the ministries dealing with economic subjects. Indeed, there was an attempt to reduce the dominance of the Planning Commission by setting up of a National Planning Council. In 1965, Shastri announced in the parliament that there would be a reconsideration of government controls over the economic activities. Consequently, there was a relaxation in regulations for some sectors such as steel and cement. Shastri's economic team comprised people like L.K. Jha, I.G. Patel, Dharmavira, and S. Bodhalingam, who were tilted towards reforming the who were tilted towards reforming the economy through modernizing agriculture and allowing more private sector freedom. Even the decision to devalue the rupee was taken in principle by Shastri, though the actual step was implemented by Indira Gandhi. Unfortunately, Shastri died before effective steps could be taken in all the fields. If he had lived longer, it is possible, as P.N. Dar says, that Shastri might have pursued an agenda of economic reform of the kind that was taken up only 25 years later under the prime ministership of Narasimha Rao. The slogan that he gave India during the war with Pakistan aptly reflected his view. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan showed Shastri's firm belief that the security of the nation upheld by the soldier was closely linked with the food security, food protection that was the farmer's forte. The slogan implied that the farmer's work on the field was equivalent to the soldier's action on the battlefield in the service of nation. The seeds of Green Revolution and White Revolution. India faced a food shortage and things were in a bad shape when Shastri drew in C. Subramaniam as his food and agriculture minister. Shastri gave full support to his minister in laying the foundations of the Green Revolution, although it was Indira Gandhi who is usually given the credit, as the gains of the new methods came to be seen only after about a decade. But in fact, it was the result of Shastri's initiatives to transform Indian agriculture. The Green Revolution involved a threefold thrust: technological, economic and organizational. The Indian Council of Agricultural Research was reorganized, and for the first time a scientist, Dr. B.P. Pal, was appointed as its head. M.S. Swaminathan of the Indian Agricultural Research Institute brought the government to an awareness of the new high-yielding wheat varieties developed by Norman Borlaug's team in Mexico, and how India must launch field demonstrations. In the face of opposition from various quarters, including the Congress Party, Shastri approved the import of 250 tons of wheat seeds in 1965. Later in 1966, some many thousands of tons were to be imported. The Green Revolution in wheat was set in motion as Indian scientists improved upon these varieties. In November 1965, when C.S. Subramaniam and Orville Freeman, the U.S. Agriculture Secretary in Rome, signed an accord that put on paper what had already been launched with the support of Shastri. As per the accord, India was committed to end imports of food grains by 1971 by investing more in agriculture, irrigation, research, seeds, fertilizers, and put in place suitable economic and marketing policies. The Americans, for their part, agreed to send more wheat to India in 1965 and 66. Incentives to support the new technology were also put in place. The Agricultural Prices Commission (APC) and the Food Corporation of India (FCI) came into being in January 1965. The National Seeds Corporation and the Central Warehousing Corporation were also set up around this time. Shastri was also instrumental in setting in motion the White Revolution, a national campaign to raise the production and supply of milk. On his visit to Anand in Gujarat in October 1964 to inaugurate the cattle feed factory of Amul at Kanjari, he was impressed by the milk cooperative. He wished that Verghese Kurian, who was the general manager of Kaira District Cooperative Milk Producers Union Limited (Amul) at the time, would help in creating such cooperatives in other parts of the country so as to improve the conditions of farmers. The National Dairy Development Board (NDDB) was established as a consequence at Anand in 1965. Skip a meal idea. The chronic food shortage in the country was a worrying fact. Also, during the 1965 war with Pakistan, Lyndon B. Johnson, the then president of the US, tried to put pressure on India by warning that if India did not stop the war, the US would stop providing wheat to the country under the PL 480 agreement. India needed to improve wheat at that time to meet its requirement of food grains. Shastri refused to be budged. We may go hungry but not bow before the US, he told the Indians. Shastri motivated the people to voluntarily give up one meal a week so that food could be saved to be distributed to the people who required it. However, before asking the public to do so, he got his family members to first try the system. Surprisingly, the public response was huge, with even restaurants closing down on Monday evenings. New institutions and projects. Several new institutions were inaugurated during Shastri's tenure. Some of these were the Central Institute of Technology campus at Taramani, Chennai in November 1964, the Andhra Pradesh Agricultural University at Hyderabad in March 1965, renamed Acharya N.G. Ranga Agricultural University in 1996 and separated into two universities after the formation of the Telangana state, with the university in Telangana being named in July 2014 as Professor Jayasankar Agricultural University and the National Institute of Technology, Allahabad. The Jawahar Dock of the Chennai Port Trust was inaugurated by Shastri, and the construction work of Tuticorin Port was begun in 1964. The foundation stone for the Upper Krishna project, of which the Alamati Dam is a part, and was laid by Shastri in 1964. It was decided by the government to name the Almaty Dam after Lal Bahadur Shastri. It was Shastri who inaugurated the plutonium reprocessing plant in Trombay in 1965. This followed the suggestion by Dr. Homi Bhabha that India should develop nuclear explosives for peaceful purposes, an idea which Shastri endorsed. At the initiative of Homi Bhabha, the Nuclear Explosive Design Group Study of Nuclear Explosions for Peaceful Purposes (SNEPP) was set up. Foreign relations. Shastri made no basic changes in the policy of non-alignment. However, he was deeply conscious that in the wake of India's war with China 1962 and the growth of military ties between Pakistan and the People's Republic of China, the Indian government should increase the defense budget of the country. So he tried to modernize the armed forces of India. He also decided that India should build closer ties with the Soviet Union. He made overtures to neighboring states to solve outstanding problems. The Bandaranaike Shastri Accord of 1964 between India and Ceylon, as Sri Lanka was then called, was signed by Lal Bahadur Shastri and his Ceylonese counterpart Sri Sirimavo Bandaranaike. Concerned with the status of Indian Tamils in Ceylon, the pact settled for the repatriation of 6 lakh Indian Tamils to India, and Ceylonese citizens to be granted to 3,75,000 Tamils in Ceylon, to be accomplished by 1981. Shastri, however, died soon after, and the accord was not fulfilled, and some years later India considered the agreement to have lapsed. Burma had undergone a military coup in 1962, and following that, many Indian families settled there had been repatriated by the Burmese government in 1964. Relations between India and Burma were strained. However, Shastri made an official visit to Rangoon in December 1965, and cordial relations were again established between India and the Burmese government under General Ne Win. Considering the situation in the subcontinent, the disturbed relations with Pakistan and China, Lal Bahadur Shastri did not hesitate to initiate a nuclear explosive program. In 1965, he gave authorization to the Atomic Energy Commission to work on achieving a nuclear test. He faced strong opposition on this issue from his own government and party as well as others, but he did not waver. Unfortunately, Lal Bahadur Shastri died in January 1966, as did the prominent personality on the nuclear science program in India, Homi J. Bhabha, before the program could proceed. Indo-Pak War. In 1965, India faced threats of war from Pakistan. General Muhammad Ayub Khan had come to power in Pakistan through a military coup in 1958, forcibly taking over from President Iskandar Mirza and assuming the president's post himself. The US was giving Pakistan a great deal of military support. The war with China in 1962 had left the Indians, including the armed forces, feeling demoralized. So Ayub Khan probably thought it was the right time to test the strength of the Indian forces at the frontier. In April 1965, Pakistan tested the situation in Sindh. It seemed as if the Pakistanis could win after the first clashes in the run of Kutch. Both sides were at Britain's intervention made to agree to a ceasefire and withdrawal of forces to the positions held before the clashes. Confident that the Indian army was weak and trying to capitalize on the unrest created in the valley by the followers of Sheikh Abdullah and some other dissidents, the leadership in Pakistan decided to launch an attack on Kashmir. Operation Grand Slam was launched in August with the idea of using the only significant overland route to Kashmir before India could muster its forces and outmoded tanks. Pakistan's foreign minister at the time, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, encouraged Ayub Khan in this venture. Well-trained infiltrators were sent into the valley with the idea of creating an uprising there. The Indian Prime Minister showed his strength of mind at this point of time. Pakistan claimed that there was a spontaneous uprising against the Indian occupation of Kashmir. India pointed out that Pakistan had instigated trouble inside Indian territory by sending armed raiders into Jammu and Kashmir from so-called Azad Kashmir, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Declaring that force would be met with force, Shastri gave orders that the Indian army should cross the ceasefire line and close the passes used by the infiltrators. By early September, the Second Indo-Pakistan War had begun. Shastri proved that he could be decisive in a way that Nehru had not been. He took little time to grant the Indian forces the permission to take the needed retaliatory steps. His defense minister Y.B. Chavan also proved to be outstanding. In September, Indian forces launched a three-pronged attack with their tanks aiming at Lahore and Sialkot across the border in Punjab. Soon Lahore was within the range of Indian fire. It was also the first time that the Indian Air Force was to take part in the war after independence. The United Nations intervened and a ceasefire was brokered, to which both sides agreed on September 23. Peace agreement at Tashkent. A South Asian Peace Conference was held in January 1966 at Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, then one of the republics of the Soviet Union, which was sponsored by the Soviet President Alexei Kosygin. It was with the mediation of Kosygin, the President Ayub Khan of Pakistan and Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri of India met and signed the Tashkent Declaration on January 10, 1966 to restore normal and peaceful relations between their countries and to promote understanding and friendly relations between their peoples. The Tashkent Declaration was meant to form a framework for lasting peace between India and Pakistan. It is believed that the two sides were not able to reach an agreement on their own and that they were compelled by the Soviet leaders to sign a draft that they had prepared. However, it did not meet with complete approval in India. Critics felt that the agreement should have been, but did not include a no-war pact, nor was there any provision that Pakistan should give up guerrilla aggression in Kashmir. In Pakistan, the agreement was received even more angrily. There were riots and demonstrations against it. Zulfikar Bhutto distanced himself from Ayub Khan and the pact, and in the end broke away to subsequently form his own political party. Shastri's death. Early in the morning of January 11, 1966, the morning following the signing of the Tashkent Declaration, Lal Bahadur Shastri died of a heart attack. There was a controversy over the death, with rumors floating that Shastri had been poisoned. The hand of the Central Intelligence Agency of the USA has been suspected in the matter, as also in engineering the death of Homi Bhabha in an air crash, as the West was wary of the nuclear aspirations of India and the disturbance in the balance of power in South Asia. The controversy has still not ended, especially as the RTIs asking for relevant information have been turned down by the government. Like, share and subscribe to support the channel.